That's 928-308-0408. Enjoy our herbal, non-caffeinated detoxing tea while you enjoy health. Visit us at getthetea.com.
Staying healthy is difficult. What nutritional supplements should you take? What foods are best for you? What health practitioner should you see? You've got health questions, I've got health answers. From heartburn to hemorrhoids, pain to pimples, carpal tunnel to the common cold, gluten to gallbladder, and gingivitis, and all points in between. I'm Dr. Bob Martin. Tune into my Sunday talk show at 10 o'clock on Talk 1470 WNN.
Talk 1470 WWNN, Pompano Beach, Boca Raton, Miami, Fort Lauderdale.
AM 1470 WNN, with more of what you need to know. Get all the latest on health with caller health questions and comments, breaking health news, the health alternative, outrage, and mystery of the week. Dr. Bob Martin Show, Sundays at 10 a.m.
AM 1470 with even more information you can use. Are you suffering with chronic pain? Tune in for No Bones About It with Dr. Alvin Stein. You'll learn non-invasive techniques that can help you get rid of your pain without the use of harmful drugs or surgery. That's No Bones About It with Dr. Alvin Stein. Tuesday mornings at 11, right here on AM 1470 WNN, South Florida's Health and Wealth Network.
Hi, it's Jay Foster. Join us 7 days a week from 2 to 3 p.m. for Health Connection Radio. We'll talk about natural cholesterol control, toxic metal syndrome, how to reverse bone loss, and the latest scientific research on vitamins and minerals. We'll have fascinating guests, and we'll take lots of your calls, too. So join us 7 days a week from 2 to 3 p.m. for Health Connection Radio right here on WNN.
This is the story of Mrs. Clark, who has lived on this very block most of her 80 years, often seen walking to town or serving brownies to the neighborhood kids, and everyone loves her. 2 years ago, a certain family member moved in to look after Mrs. Clark, and that's when everything changed. Mrs. Clark became the victim of elder abuse.
Elder abuse is often closer to home than you think or want to believe. McGruff, the crime dog here. The National Crime Prevention Council wants you to know the signs of elder abuse. Bruises, isolation, reduced activities, poor hygiene, depression, and financial problems. Protect yourself and speak out if you recognize signs of abuse in others.
Elder abuse is a crime that affects over 2 million senior citizens every year. Even more astounding, it's most commonly committed by a family member or someone they trusted. If you suspect abuse, contact your local law enforcement agency. To learn more, go to ncpc.org/seniors. That's ncpc.org/seniors. A message from the National Crime Prevention Council and the U.S. Department of Justice.
There are a ton of social networking websites, but one stands apart for a very special reason. This one saves lives. It's MatchingDonors.com. MatchingDonors.com links organ donors with people in need of kidney and other transplants. In the U.S., 19 people die each day waiting for an organ transplant, most of them for kidneys. If you've ever considered becoming a living organ donor, or if you have someone in need of an organ transplant, visit MatchingDonors.com. Home of the greatest gift of all, the gift of life. MatchingDonors.com.
What you want to know. What you need to know. Talk 1470 WNN.
The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of the station, its staff, management, or sponsors. Welcome to the Golf and Travel Show, the place to fine-tune your swing, dress for the course, club, or cruise, and get tips on the best places to play and stay at the right price. Vacation or staycation, host Dan Schub, along with his expert co-hosts and guests, will tell you where to go. To play golf and vacation, that is. Now, here's Dan.
I'm your host, Dan Schub, and tonight, like we always do, we're going to talk some golf, we're going to talk some travel, we're going to delve a bit into the arts tonight as well, which is something that we occasionally like to do. And obviously, art and travel have a lot to do with one another. I guess you could say art and golf even can have a lot to do with one another. And our guests we're going to speak to in a bit, we're going to focus on some different kinds of arts. Our first guest in just a few minutes we're going to be chatting with is sculptor Alexander Krivoshew. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. And he's been commissioned to do some artwork in the community here in the West Palm Beach area, actually. And he's also doing some work for the International Olympic Committee as well. And he's just been doing a lot of sculpting, I suppose. So I figure beautification of our area is extremely important, both for the folks who live here as well as for the people that travel here. So I wanted to find out a little bit more about that. Another event that came to my attention, and this is something that we do talk about frequently on the show, and that would be music and music festivals. Again, something that's wonderful for the folks that live nearby, for the people that live in state, as well as for the out-of-state people. A lot of people will travel to see a very, very cool festival. For instance, a Bonnaroo or a Coachella. And when it was brought to my attention that a festival of that magnitude is going to be in Okeechobee, Florida this spring, I needed to find out a little bit more about it. Of course, the people that brought it to my attention were my kids, because it was all the acts that they are interested in seeing. Some pretty big name stuff like Robert Plant and Hall & Oates and, the list just goes on and on. There's dozens and dozens of acts that are going to be performing at this festival. And we're going to find a little bit more about the festival, what it takes to put it on, how you find a slate so massive, and why you pick Okeechobee to even have it. It is a first-time event out there in Okeechobee. So we're going to be talking to Paul Peck, and he's from Soundslinger. They're the promoters that are putting this event together, and find out a little bit more about it. And hopefully some of you folks that are listening, if you haven't heard about it, when we talk about it, you'll want to come on down and visit Okeechobee, a town that I've worked in and spent some time in, and it's kind of near and dear to me. So now this is our first show since we took a bit of a break for the holidays, being that the past 2 Fridays were both Christmas and New Year's. And so we haven't spoken for a bit, and there were a little bit of things, or a few things that I wanted to talk about. And typically we focus a little bit more on golf in the beginning of the show, and then we kind of move into some other topics like the arts or travel, of course. And there is some golf news that I kind of wanted to share with everybody since it is a new year. There's some things to cover. First of all, the Golf Writers Association of America, which is a group that I've been a member of for about 20 years or so, they announced their important awards. They've announced most of their other awards earlier on, but these are the big ones for the 2015 season. Since now we're into 2016, I figured we'd take care of that business first. And these are the Player of the Year awards. So these are the biggest awards that our association gives out. So I just wanted to kind of congratulate the winners. First of all, 2 youngsters, Jordan Spieth, who's only 22 years old, and Lydia Ko, who is only 18 years old, for the PGA and the LPGA Players of the Year. And then on the Champions Tour, and so I can't say that he's young, although for the Champions Tour he's young at 55, Jeff Maggart, who also had a wonderful season. So just barely earning enough to beat out Bernhard Langer, who obviously is up there at the top every year. So it's nice to see a bit of a changing of the guard. And this was really the first year that Maggart dedicated. When you turn 50, you can play, but he was still playing a lot of events on the PGA Tour. So once he switched his focus to the Champions Tour, we got to see what he's really got. So congratulations to the winners. And speaking about golf, one of our guests, actually, a couple of weeks ago, we only spoke to him for a couple of minutes, and that was Ryan Dillon, the tournament director of the Allianz Championship. And that's going to be taking place the first week in February, so that's literally just around the corner. And, again, the event is literally just around the corner at the old course at Broken Sound in Boca Raton. And just this week, a couple of days ago, they had their media day. I was supposed to attend, and something came up. I couldn't make it, but defending champion Paul Goydos was there and said a few words to the folks that were able to make it. And, of course, there's going to be a great field. Of course, Bernhard Langer, who I just mentioned, you have to think that he's going to have a good chance. But other big-name players such as Tom Lehman and Nick Price and Colin Montgomery and Marco Mira, Tom Kite, Ben Crenshaw, We'll be playing. Jesper Parnevik is one of the top rookies who just has graduated to the Champions Tour, so he'll be playing. And it's in our backyard, so I really encourage everybody to take advantage of having an event so close by and the opportunity to see these players that are still in their prime. Golf certainly can be played well into your 50s, if not 60s, at a very, very high level, and you can get up close and personal. And tickets are very, very moderately priced, $20 a day for general admission only, so you could get in. And, of course, they do have upgraded hospitality situations as well. And you can find out all about it by going to AllianzChampionship.com. And you can get the information there and purchase tickets, etc. So hopefully you'll show up and support that wonderful event. Also, this time of year, I'm getting ready to go cover what I do every year for, again, about 20 years now, which is the PGA show up in Orlando, the merchandise show. And this is where all of the manufacturers introduce the new and wonderful products that are going to make you really happy, make you look good, shave dozens of strokes off of your golf game, or maybe not. But you'll feel much better about yourself when you're sporting some of the new stuff. And it's always a very interesting thing to see some of the new products that come out and the difficulty of a new company and a new product breaking into the golf world with the more established, bigger companies, the TaylorMades and the Callaways and the Titleists. Very, very, very difficult. And it seems that this year I'm starting to get all of the press releases of all these new products, and everybody's encouraging me to come visit them in their booth and see their new products. And it seems that the angle that a lot of manufacturers, new players in the game, are taking this year is the high end of the golf business. They feel that there's a niche that could be carved out with, the products that maybe not every golfer can afford, just the elite. And one of those folks is a fellow by the name of Bob Parsons. And he's made a bit of change as the founder of a company by the name of GoDaddy. And you may have heard of them. You may have seen their commercials on the Super Bowl. Danica Patrick for a long time was featured in many of their commercials. And, they're a good company. They make websites. They design websites and they run them for you and, host them. And he's done quite well. He's made billions. And he decided he's obviously an avid golfer, and he wanted to come out with his own line of clubs, in particular irons. And he claims that he's spent personally over $300,000 a year on equipment. So he figured he may as well just make his own. And he came out with a product called PXG. Excuse me, PXG. Pardon me. Take a sip and I'll be better. And Zach Johnson and many of the other players are playing these clubs, but they're costing about $5,000 for a set of irons. So beware. Things like this have happened before in the past where companies have come in, people like this with, trying to break in, and especially with high-end products, and hasn't lasted long. So I'm rooting for Mr. Parsons. You won't see me hitting a set of these irons or showing up to the golf course with them unless they're going to give me a set. But I do wish him the best. And this is not the only example of this. I also got some information from a company by the name of Sterling England. And they came out with some irons that are like silver and gold plated. It's called the Patriot line. And they're forged irons, and it looks like a bald eagle and an American flag behind them, on the inserts on the irons, actually on the back of the irons. And these two are going to go for several $1,000s for a set. 6-club set in silver finish starts at about a little over $2,000, and the 24-karat gold leaf finish for a 9-club set starts at about a little over $3,000. So if you want to be different, you want to show up at the club and be that person that has something that nobody else has, there's a good chance if you purchase one of these sets of irons, you probably will be that person. Now, I'm going to be, like I said, heading to the show. Let's see, it's the end of this month, so it's just a couple of weeks away. And, of course, like I always do, I'll be staying up there. I'm going to be playing in the Tour Edge event and checking out the new line of Tour Edge clubs, as well as some of the other manufacturers that will be exhibiting at their event. And the demo day, the driving range up at Orange County National will be full with, a couple of hundred exhibitors there, too. So I will find out all of the latest, all of the greatest, and fill you all in on what's going on in new golf product. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to kind of change gears a little bit, and we'll talk a little bit of art because somebody's got to do it, and it's important that we do. So stay tuned for more of the Golf and Travel Show. We'll be right back. And time for a quick message from our sponsor, Labor Finders. If your business needs industrial workers or if you're looking for work, you need to call Labor Finders. Labor Finders places temporary to hire opportunities for skilled, semi-skilled, or general labor positions such as plumbers, electricians, concrete workers, forklift operators, office clerical, and so much more. Labor Finders has almost 200 offices nationwide. Near here in Boca Raton, they have offices in Miami, Homestead, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach, and Jupiter. So if you need legal, insured, hard workers, or if you want to work hard, call Labor Finders toll-free at 800-864-7749. That's 800-864-7749, or just visit laborfinders.com. And we are back, and hopefully you won't have the love art blues if you have an opportunity to hear and see some interesting artwork and expand your experience with art, and hopefully the area of West Palm Beach is going to do just that. And to find out a little bit more about what's going on in West Palm Beach as far as art is concerned, public art, we're going to talk to the guy that is right front and center with beautifying West Palm Beach, and that would be sculptor Alexander Crevichet. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correct. Alexander, are you with us?
Yes, I'm right here.
Well,
that is correct. Thank you, Dan.
Oh, my pleasure. It's not an easy one, so I appreciate it. But, thank you for joining us. And when I heard about the story about this piece of art that the sculpture that you've produced that's going to be on public display in West Palm Beach is an initiative or a law to beautify the city, I just thought that it was really, really cool. So I wanted to find out a little bit more, first of all, about you and how you came to be the guy that's involved with this, and a little bit more about some of the other art that you do. So why don't we start a little bit about you? Tell me a little bit about your background and how you got into art and how you come to be the sculptor that you are today.
Well, I got to say, it really started in my father's garage when I was around 6 years old. And I found myself tinkering with all his tools and taking apart, his wood, building blocks, and I found myself completely passionate. I think that was the moment where I realized that sculpture was going to be the one and only direction I was going to take. So from there, I went and studied in Greece with a marble carver for about 2.5 years when I was about 13 to 14 years old. And on my return, I was lucky and fortunate enough to find a mentor who taught me the practice of metal fabrication. And he is a third-generation sculptor who really projected me into a realm of fabrication and sculpting massive metal sculptures. for 16 years.
Now you went to school in New York. Why don't you explain a little bit about how that was in New York City and what that whole experience was learning? And obviously when you go to college and you study art, I guess they were probably trying to convince you that maybe working with sculpture and metal isn't the only thing. You know, they're probably trying to open up your eyes to all this other stuff, but you seem to stay focused. Why don't you explain a little bit about that?
Well, the one fortunate thing about my school, which was School of Visual Arts in Manhattan, is that the teachers in my program had to also maintain their own ability to show and constantly provide work that was in galleries as well as teaching. So we were taught by artists that were currently in the scene and also in editorials as well. But as most people know, New York is probably the best place as far as culturally with the art and being a part of others that are, passionately exploring that area, because it's a difficult thing to live in New York and survive as an artist, and especially as an abstract sculptor, it's even that much more difficult because you got to make people stop and think about what they're looking at. And with something that's abstract, it's hard to identify. So if you can maintain that moment of where somebody will stop and observe something and grab some sort of resemblance or memory or an emotion, I think you really truly succeeded as an artist. And that is one of the biggest challenges I've ever had in my life.
Now, you said that you did some studies in Greece and you went to school in New York, and now you're in South Florida, I believe in the Miami area, which is a hotbed of art activity. I too gravitated from New York to South Florida. It seems we all do for one reason or another, but having
we're all snowbirds, aren't we?
I know. It's who wants to leave? It's so beautiful down here, right? Once you visit, you can't leave. But with all the travels you do,
I'm sorry, Miami. No, I'm actually up in West Palm Beach.
Oh, well, okay. So you're even closer to where we are here in Boca. So that's wonderful. But with all the traveling that you do for all of your exhibits and your projects that you undertake, do you ever get tempted to go someplace further away or more exotic, or you always look forward to coming back to West Palm Beach?
Well, recently in the last 3 years, I've spent probably half of the year outside of the country, whether it was in Bangkok, Taiwan, Switzerland, all primarily for large sculptural monumental installations and foundry work. I have about 3 different foundries that I use down here, actually locally, and also I have one major foundry in Bangkok that I use quite frequently as well.
Wow, so there must be quite a bit of logistical work that's involved with getting your stuff set up around the world, I can only imagine.
Oh, it's, once you go through it a couple times and you learn, sort of the ways and the culture and the differences of what we deal with here, you adapt, and I got to say, I truly love traveling.
Well, good. Then you're talking to the right folks here, because we all love it too. But so again, pardon me for being a bit of a novice, but when you're designing these large sculptures out of metal, do you fabricate them and kind of put them together here and then take them apart and ship them and put them back together, or do you do most of the work on location wherever it's going to be installed?
Actually, I do a little bit of both. Primarily, most of my life, I take sheet metal and fabricate it into organic forms, complex sculptures. And then recently, I just started experimenting with some really compound and organic curves that were so difficult and rigorous and time-consuming that it was almost impossible to sustain a living making these one-of-a-kind pieces because of the time, labor, overhead, material, and it's mostly bronze that I'm working in now.
Mm-hmm.
So it sort of dawned on me that I really needed to follow the practices of the greats like Henry Moore and the ones that create editions. So I started doing editions, and that's where the foundry started to enter into my life.
Okay, well, you think about people that work with metals and sheet metals, and you just don't think of an artist like yourself. It just doesn't. It's not the first thing that comes to mind, but it's amazing what you can do with a product like metal, all the different kinds of metals. Curious, you said that your work is abstract. I've seen some of the pieces, some pictures of them. When you have an exhibit or when you do an installation, one of your outdoor works or something, I'm assuming that there must be times that you stand there and you watch other people who are looking at your work and maybe trying to figure out what it is, or I mean, do you ever, walk up to people? Do you just listen to them, kind of behind them to see what the reaction is? How does that kind of go down for you?
It could be very exciting and very depressing at the same time. I've done multiple shows, all the art fairs. I've been in Basel. I've done, I don't know, maybe seven to 10 shows in Basel. And I just learned to step back and let people, give them their space and their time. And then if there's interest to discuss, something else or other details of it, I'll step in. But I really like giving people space because everybody, the eye in the beholder, right?
Mm-hmm.
People see their own thing. People have their own emotion, their response. And I don't want to ruin that either because I have my intention, but with something abstract, you allow people to open their minds and try to associate it with something that's completely different than what you intended.
Mm.
So it's interesting to see what people perceive,
All right,
and I think their perception is just as valid as my intention.
Okay, well, that certainly makes sense, and I just think it's fascinating, and I can understand how these must become your children, and you're probably very protective of them. I would only assume.
It's hard to let them go. Let me tell you.
I can imagine.
It's very hard to let them go.
Now let's talk a little bit about your current project that's here in West Palm Beach, because it's in my mind a little unique because it has to do with a local ordinance that's relatively new, and you're working with a home builder as well. So it's a for-profit organization which is adopting your piece here. And why don't you explain a little bit about it?
Well, the 1% Act has just been initiated in this county where 1% of the cost of building from ground up has to be allocated towards the art of the property. So I was just very fortunate and very lucky to have the right person to see the work and bring a developer into my studio and pick a piece that they fell in love with. And I became the first artist in West Palm Beach to actually create and install a piece for the 1% Act.
Wow, that's it's like being the 1 millionth customer. You walk through the door and all the confetti starts falling, and it's a lucky thing that you're that guy, that number one. That's very, very cool. Now
especially being new down here. I mean, I've been down here for about almost 4 years now, so it's been a difficult time sort of readjusting, from Brooklyn. But I finally feel like I'm getting my feet grounded, and I'm very excited about everything that's happening down here.
Well, there's certainly plenty of us New Yorkers around here to help make you feel comfortable as well. So
absolutely.
Now the piece, am I pronouncing it correctly? Calliope.
Calliope. Yes.
Calliope. Okay.
A species of hummingbirds.
Okay. And I'm looking at the piece right now. So how would you describe it to the folks? Of course, we're on radio, so we're at a bit of a disadvantage. But if you tried to describe it, is it possible for you to do that?
Yes, absolutely. I had there was a commission that I created for an ice skater. Let's say 2 years before I created Calliope. And the ice skater was a Russian ice skater, and she wanted me to capture her movements on ice and capture them in stillness. And this sort of led to, it was a very successful sculpture, and it led to a whole new body of work. So as I was drawing, I used to draw outside in Brooklyn by the water, and a hummingbird, which you rarely see in Brooklyn, especially on the East River,